Kashimo, oh Kashimo, how you fell so sticky. What's up, guys? Akatanto here, and here we are to do a nice little questionable discussion on whether or not Hajimekashimo could have gotten any more without damaging the narrative. It's literally as simple as that. Could Hajimekashimo, the lightning beast, the strongest of the Edo period, a monster and demon amongst monsters and demons, the lightning glazer, if you will, could he have gotten more without directly damaging the plot he exists in and honestly defeating his whole character purpose? We have a quite hefty bit of a chunk to talk about. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready. 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? So that guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, you're looking at it, you see it, I see it, we all see it. It's the infamous panel that took Kashimo from a fan favorite character and reduced him to nothing more than the lightning glazer. He'll glaze you at maximum speed, at light speed, electromagnetic speed. It's Hajimekashimo and he'll glaze you just like that. Bro took one look at this beastly big old boy and was like, oh, beautiful. And his reputation has been the same ever since. Kashimo Hajime is a character who I've talked about a couple times, his end a couple times, but I've usually been talking about them in very specific ways. I talked about how I think he actually ended up serving his narrative purpose, and overall he technically didn't need more, considering his character purpose was executed quite well, if not perfectly. I talked about how, hypothetically, we could have gotten more of his curse technique, but I haven't gone full on that. I'm going to make a whole video talking about that too. But one of the biggest things that I consistently see talked about for Kashimo is that he should have gotten more. Bro deserved more. Considering how much time he put into him, he should have gotten extra thick, juicy. He should have gotten some glaze of his own outside of some random statements here or there and 200 off-screen battles, or 200 points worth of off-screen battles. And it's complicated because I want to say I agree, but I'm not all too sure. Mainly just based on how JJK is paced. So here's the thing. The thing about Kashimo Hajime, as amazing a character as he is, with this amazing character design, this amazing ability, the really cool element behind the ability, from the lightning to all that to the transformation, everything's so cool. But if we were to boil Kashimo down, if we were to strip away all of his aesthetic details, trying to remove everything that really makes Kashimo Kashimo, and just look at his narrative role, because, in every piece of fiction, every character is a plot device, one way or another. We call plot on some characters harder than others, but hey, every character is a plot device in one way or another. If I were to guess, once again, I'm not Gege Akutami. I may think like him sometimes, because darn, I want Itadori to be the only one left, and I need Panon to be ripped apart excruciatingly painfully. But with that being the case, I may think like him sometimes, but I'm not Gege Akutami. But if I had to think what Gege was going for when he was making and designing Kashimo Hajime, he wanted a really good jobber for true form Sukuna. Very specifically, true form Sukuna. Because here's the thing, I hate to say it, but legally speaking, Gojo's a jobber. Gojo Satoru. He is a jobber. I'm going to make a whole video talk about that. So don't lose your mind. I'm going to go more in depth on that in its own video. But Gojo was a jobber to show how powerful Sukuna is. And ultimately, Kashimo was a jobber to show how powerful true form Sukuna is. Of course, Sukuna is Sukuna, regardless of what form he's in. But I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. Every single variation of Sukuna has had a jobber. Every last one of them. Jobber, then a real fight. 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 I've mentioned it before. I won't mention it again too much. But of course, this new form of Sukuna, new, quote unquote, the first time we see it fight properly, it needed some sort of hype. Needed some sort of introduction. And of course, if I'm Gege Akutami and I'm planning, once again, I don't know how Gege writes, but presumably just based on how certain things go, I'm assuming they write major plot points, and likely based on how important Sukuna is to the narrative, writes around major points for each part of Sukuna's narrative. I presume that he started the pattern of jobber then real fight for Sukuna, so he needed to make a jobber for Sukuna, and I feel like Kashimo was introduced for that, and that in particular. And once again, for that narrative role, I mean, the panel speaks for itself. How beautiful. How glorious. Look at his thick, bulging musculature. Look at his mouth. filled with pearly white teeth that I still don't know how his body works. I know it says, the chapter literally says his physical form may be greatly deformed, but it doesn't impede him in any way. My cap, my master's degree, actually is right here. Hold on. I'm gonna have to put the cap on for that one, because I don't buy it. I do not believe that form does not impede him in any way. Where are his lungs? Where's his stomach? Where's his small intestine? His large intestine? Does he need to use the bathroom? Like, I think he is very physically deformed, but there's obviously a reason that Kashimo was here, and it was to glaze. It was just a straight glaze. And once again, to show that Sukuna is still him, no matter how badly Gojo may have looked like he was beating him. And once again, establish that gap between Gojo and Sukuna in the rest of the verse. That's what this is clearly meant to do. Kashimo is built for this. It's why you see him do nothing to true form Sukuna. Literally nothing. Not a single clean hit landed. His electromagnetic waves get blitzed by dismantles. Bro needs to be told to be dodged attacks. Well, he needs to be told to dodge attacks, only to still get hit by the attacks anyways. You can see by his hand being left on the ground. And you see him get bullied by his own element, or faked out by it, to the point where he's getting bullied, bagged, knocked around, and literally needs to have a whole afterlife conversation after being turned into a waffle. Kashimo Hajime was built for this. I hate to say it, he was built for this. And while I still really like Kashimo Hajime, this doesn't necessarily hurt me too much. What Kashimo got, or what he didn't receive, despite what I may say in this video, I think it's fine. Mainly because to say the very least, I laid my bets early on. I was wrong about Gojo, but I was right about Kashimo. I knew he didn't stand a chance. If any character was going to do anything in Sukuna, I knew it wasn't going to be Kashimo Hajime. Especially if he wanted to fight alone. And bro very clearly wanted to fight alone. So I knew Broski was going to be cooked one way or another. But the question now is, okay, so that is his narrative role. We can't take that away. It's kind of like, I love Across the Spider-Verse, so allow me to say, it is a canon event. This kind of does need to happen to Kashimo. His story has to end in a loss to Sukuna. It simply does. And it notably, I almost want to say it has to be a devastating loss, but maybe not. We're going to get into that. But this is where Kashimo needs to finish. He cannot go further than this. Because one of the biggest things a friend was asking was like, okay, well, maybe you can keep Kashimo around. And I was like, keep him around for what? Keep him around for what? To sit around? To be there? It's kind of like, why keep any of these characters around? It's not like unless he's like going to do things against the merger, there's nothing for him to do. If the merger even pops off. I believe it's going to pop off, but hey, hypothetically, my friend doesn't believe the merger is going to pop off, so I literally asked him, what do you want him to do afterwards? So he has to end here. He must. I'm sorry, it's simply a law of nature. We cannot have Mythical Beast Amber Kashimo go on further than this point without contradicting his curse technique and his character. He admittedly wanted this. That's why he goes into this intense glaze fest in the first place and has this whole conversation with Sukuna towards the end. So we need to keep this. We need to keep the beatdown, the humiliation, and the end point. But now the question is, can we go back? Back in time? Back to reality, to alter reality, in order to make it so that Kashimo Hajime gets a little bit more for how much he was hyped. Because here's the thing, between the two main jobbers for 20-finger Sukuna, whether that be 20-finger Maguna or 20-finger true form Sukuna, there's a stark difference in how they are treated by the narrative. Gojo Satoru, despite his ultimate role being a jobber in the end, he still got to have numerous battles where even if he didn't win, legally speaking, because his opponents got away, he won. And he won against supposedly, and not even supposedly, just powerful, I hate to say Jogo's powerful, but powerful people. His first major battle in the entire series against Sukuna, beats him, quote unquote, though that's like, once again, I've covered that. It's kind of a weird thing. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a beat because, Sukuna only got 10 seconds. So, and then the anime makes it worse. I don't think he actually sits on in the manga. I have to reread chapter 2 or 3, whichever chapter that fight is in. But it's not actually as disrespectful. For some reason, Maba just went crazy in the anime and made it extra disrespectful. I think they lasted way longer than 10 seconds in the anime too. But, once again, Jogo got victimized by I'm sorry, their names are supposed to be. Jogo got victimized by Gojo. Hanami got victimized by Gojo. Kenjaku was about to be victimized by Gojo. Urume got victimized by I keep messing up. Gojo. Toji got victimized by Gojo. And once again, all the characters I'm listing are not like randoms. They aren't grade ones. They aren't unqualified farmers, all right? Like, you don't have to say that any of these characters are fodder. Sure, do I personally believe Jogo isn't even top 17? Yes. I was about to lie. I'd be like, no, he's got to be top. No, he is not even top 17. At least, well, he may be 17. He's not top 15. At least not in my book. Hanami, even lower. Goodwill victim. Honestly, you can even make pretty solid argument. Well, no, not for Arume and not for Sukuna. It's like those are the only two you can kind of let slide. But like, and definitely not Toji either. Like, but that's the thing though. That's actually the good thing. Gojo, the other jobber for Sukuna, didn't just get glazed into immediate execution. He had other battles. That's where Kashimo's kind of lacking. Because let's look at his other main battle. The one that he's well known for. The one that everybody named Mama loves and knows Kashimo Hajime for. It's his battle against Akari Kinji. Now, me personally, call it the Kashimo glazer in me. In me. I look in the mirror every morning and I see, oh, I'm a Kashimo glazer? Oh no. I'm not saying oh no. I think he would have won this fight if the water wasn't there. I think he would have figured it out eventually. Because notably Hikari, once again, was doing very little damage to bro. You literally see the damage in aftermath of the fight. Very little damage. As Hikari knows, the fight's getting dangerous. He had to start whipping out strange tactics in order to get that win over Kashimo. Kashimo is relatively dominant in this fight. Especially for going against someone who is, quote unquote, relative to Yuta Okotsu, if not stronger than him on a roll. For Kashimo to go bar for bar for bar for bar for this, that's fantastic. Impressive. Amazing. Scrumdiddly. He lost the fight. He lost the fight. It doesn't matter. It's kind of in the same way I feel about Gojo versus Sukuna. Oh, well, Gojo could have won. Okay, he lost, though. We just got a whole... He lost, though. And that's the same thing with Kashimo. No matter how little damage Hikari did to him, no matter the fact that Kashimo may have been able to win if there wasn't water there, no matter the fact of whatever 15 bajillion other factors, if you put these two characters in a white void and let them fight for 2,000 years, it doesn't matter. Kashimo's win-loss record is atrocious. He doesn't have anybody. Once again, the only sort of hype he has is statements from a period we know little to nothing about other than Ryuri Shigori, when we know those two didn't even fight. And the other one, we have 200 points he got off screen. Oh, wow. Whoa, Kashimo, look at you. You slayed 40 people off screen. We saw you beat one guy. We don't know who that guy is. We have no context for him. Was he grade 1? Was he grade 4? Was he grade 0? Did you just off a civil? Okay, we knew it was a sorcerer because it was 5 points. But still, like, dude, we have no context for Kashimo other than a fight he lost and the fact that he failed to execute Panda, which is his biggest crime to this day. Maybe that's why I don't care too much that he lost to Sukuna and started glazing him. Because he messed up the one job he had to get rid of Panda to save me. Save me from the narrative. Save me from that filth. But no, he had to do it. He had to leave Panda alive. So right now, Kashimo in the narrative only has an L and inconclusive due to an interruption. I'll admit, you know, Hikari does come out of nowhere and start going crazy on him when, you know, he was going up against Panda. That is true. That is true. I will not that hustle. But the thingamajigger here is that it doesn't matter. Because he just fails. Like, once again, comes out of nowhere, gets punched, goes even, loses the fight. That's all we get. There's nothing else. Y'all, how am I supposed to deal with this? How are we supposed to take Kashimo seriously as a threat? Once again, we, just based on statements, can definitely say Kashimo's Himothy, the strongest of the Edo period, a monster, a demon, plagued by the same sickness that came with the strength that Gojo Satoru and Ryomen Sukuna had. He's a character with control over one of the most powerful elements in creation, lightning. A sure hit without a domain with the lightning ball. Oh, it just sounds so good. It sounds so scrumdiddly-umptious. Oh, it just sounds so... But once again, he doesn't have an on-screen absolute dub against someone relevant. Someone relevant. That's all, literally, that's all he needs. Gojo had dubs against relevant people. Hikari has a dub against a relevant person. Yusa has dubs against a relevant person. Jogo. Like fatigue Nanami, fatigue Nabito, fatigue Manga. But like still, Jogo, he has his moments. He has his moments where he cooks, quite literally. Hanami. No. But like still, there were moments when they were going crazy. But Kashimo, he just doesn't have that. So the question is, what can we do for this man? What can we do to make it so that the I can't even, I'm about to say, the massacre that happens here. What can we do so that this isn't so embarrassing towards the end? The lack of anything in base, the immediate need to go Phantom Beast Amber, and barely being able to do anything to 20 Finger, Omega Fatigued, Drained Sukuna. What can we do? And what can we do that doesn't immediately compromise the whole point of the character? Because that's the catch-22. We need to give him something that does not immediately and instantaneously devalue or eradicate his role. So one thing I think I do have to ban from the scenario, we can't, maybe, because here's the thing, right? This is a big thing with how much Gege would be willing to commit to the narrative. But like, realistically, if we were like assuming Gege was fully willing to commit to the beam, fully willing to commit to the bag, that this guy right here, this little lightning beast himself, was in fact one of the strongest, should be put in that echelon with Gojo and Sukuna. That's the thing though. Does that compromise the narrative of the character and why he was introduced? That's the main question. Because here's the thing, right? What I was about to suggest is maybe you could actually let him land a clean hit or two on Sukuna. Maybe hit Sukuna with a bolt. Maybe remove a hand. Maybe remove a foot. Maybe remove one of those eyeballs. Do something. Maybe, but then again, that does go against what Sukuna and his pattern is about in his narrative. But once again, Kashimo's also supposed to be one of these characters. He's supposed to be a Gojo Satoru. He's supposed to be a Ryomen Sukuna. Someone who does stand in a tier all his own, which should be up with them, legally speaking. So the question is, does that counteract the narrative? Because I'm telling you, Kashimo would not have had such a drastic flip, like such a hard flip in the fandom's perspective, if he landed one clean hit. One clean hit. Notably, he gets clean hits on this guy. But like I mentioned in my own, does Kashimo scale to Sukuna video, I mean, this is good. Just based on how Sukuna starts reacting to Kashimo here and starts negging some of his attacks, it's very clear that if you were to drop a good chunk of our cast in front of this Sukuna, they would also still most likely perish. This is the same guy who, sliced Gojo in half while he was still missing a hand, missing a foot, missing two. Clearly this guy is still strong, but I don't know. This clearly isn't anywhere near as impressive as anything happening to this version of Sukuna. But we can't, that's the thing. Based on how the resurrection and return of this Sukuna is established, this is done because Sukuna is so low on cursed energy that he can't use RCT anymore, and now he's forced to resort to this form of healing his flesh. So we can't legally do much damage to this, but then again, 247 throws that in contention, because he just chops off his hand, and then we already see it start steaming. So presumably he can still regen, maybe it's just slower. And the thing is, right, the big thing about this, in terms of do we give him more against Sukuna and not worry about him sacking the narrative purpose he's built for, the role he's in? You can have him fight and still lose. I'm not saying you have to give him a Gojo tier battle, because the main thing about the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, as great as it is, no matter how many problems I have with it, now with a clear mind and a few weeks off from it, well, not a few weeks, a few months off from the end of it, I can now clearly see what it's for. It's to show how powerful Gojo was, and at the same time, in the end, have Gojo job for Sukuna. So you don't have to give Kashimo the same treatment, especially not against True Form. Because whether or not you think True Form changes stats or not, I think the average reader, because once again, Gege isn't just writing for his power scalers or super deep narrative analysis guys. He's writing for Shonen Jump. He's writing for a magazine. A magazine? Why did I say that so weird? A magazine. He's writing for a magazine for young boys. So whether or not you believe that True Form Sukuna has any scaling implications relative to Meguna or anything like that, whether or not you believe that or not, I don't really mind which camp you fall into. If I'm a young boy reading shonen manga, I'm going to take one look at this guy, this guy with 2 arms, black hair, 2 eyes, all that, and then I'm going to take a look at this guy, 4 eyes, 4 arms, 2 mouths, thicker thighs, all that. I'm going to look at the 2 and be like, oh, that one's stronger. So, in my opinion, you can't really, because that's the thing, you then start to encroach on Gojo's narrative about him being the strongest. You can't have Kashimo do too much. You can't have him do too much against this form of Sukuna. Because once again, whether it has scaling implications or not, if Kashimo starts doing lethal damage to this one, not only do you have the issue of the RCT and the whole reason why this Sukuna incarnated into this Sukuna in the first place, but also you once again risk backwards harming Gojo's narrative, because it's like, oh, well, if this, once again, going on the perspective, Gage's writing a series for young boys, if they see Kashimo start doing better against this Sukuna than Gojo did against this Sukuna, they're going to automatically assume, oh, well, Kashimo's stronger than Gojo. But then that will inadvertently, like, kind of bang towards Gojo's narrative of being the strongest outside of Sukuna. So it's kind of like, that's kind of why I kind of feel like you can't do that for this fight in particular. I don't really think you can give Kashimo much more here. Once again, maybe a clean hit or two. And you can still do the thing. Because, like, the main reason this fight is so disrespectful, because I've seen a lot of Kashimo downplay. Once again, I'm talking about how we're writing for a narrative and, like, a series for young boys. Well, let's switch back to the power skill in me. I've seen a whole bunch of people be like, oh, Kashimo's fodder. A Higuruma victim. And well, maybe. No, clearly not. An Itadori victim. Oh, well... My agenda. It's taking me over. But a Maki victim. A Toji victim. And yada, 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 yada. Kenjaku, whatever. Yuta, fine. I can maybe ride with Yuta. You know, Yuta kind of bully. But, like, with all that being the case, I've been seeing a lot of Kashimo downplay. People are saying, like, he's not even top 15? Not even top 10? Because he's a bum and he lost to Sukuna in this battle. No! The main reason everyone else is going better against Sukuna versus Kashimo isn't the fact that they suddenly all leaped up past the strongest in the Edo period. It's the fact that Sukuna actually decided to treat Kashimo with some respect and go all out against them. You can, if you don't read, like, their battle, like, post Kashimo onwards, if you don't read, basically from the moment these two idiots appear as Sukuna messing around, I don't know what to tell you, dog. This man is clearly not going on. He is there for the memes and the Doritos. He literally immediately confessed guilty to the trial because he wanted to see the sword. This man is clearly playing around. Versus Kashimo, he actually did give him a little bit of respect, a little bit of love. That's what their whole conversation is about here. And we respond to that love. He very clearly treated Kashimo as a relatively serious threat. Sure, he is still messing around a bit, but presumably he's going out a whole lot more in comparison to everyone else against Kashimo relative to, like, Higuruma or Kusakabe or any of Choso or anything like that. He's clearly going more all out against Kashimo than he is them. So Kashimo's not fodder. But once again, we gotta give him more so this doesn't feel as bad. So it doesn't hurt too much. So we don't, when we look back on Kashimo, we don't go, inconclusive, loss, bad loss. We gotta give him one win. And if we can't give him little mini wins against Sukuna without compromising his narrative, Sukuna's narrative, and Gojo's narrative, 3 narratives for the price of 1, what do we do? I think, but this is the thing though. This is where we run into a different problem of JJK's pacing. You gotta do one of 2 things. You gotta either expand on the military plotline somewhat, or flesh out the period of the month time skip. You have to do one of those 2 things, and my big reason why I don't think it works is because Gege clearly did not want to do that. Because the thing with the military plotline is, right, we have no idea what happened with that. It kind of just got glazed over pretty quickly. We don't know how everyone regrouped or anything like that. We don't know how Kashimo met everybody. We have no idea. Same thing with that whole month time skip. We have no idea what happened there. But see, the thing is, though, Sukuna immediately goes and executes. There's no... we just can't do it. We just can't do it because there's no one else established. You would have to just give Kashimo another fight. That's the main thing I've been building to this entire time. But you have to give him another fight and you have to let him win. But the thing is that fight needs to be against someone of importance. But like Earl's missing an arm. Ryu's got by the time that Kashimo... Well, maybe that's the thing. Unfortunately, with Ryu getting got, you can't use Ryu as a jobbing device. You could do a sparring match between Hakari and Kashimo, or Yuta and Kashimo, or Maki and Kashimo, but even then, you still run into the issue of, like, well, clearly Kashimo wouldn't win that. And even if he did win, it's a sparring match. It's not a to the end. So, like, I think you kind of just can't. You kind of just can't. Because, what? During the military plotline, what are you going to establish? Oh, there's a super powerful curse, and, like, Hakari's still tired, so Kashimo's like, hold on, I got some of my cursed energy back, and he goes up and mollywops it. What's the curse? How powerful is it? What does that do? They're so, There's so few characters of notable ability. And you can't do it. Because Kashimo, once again, it's unfortunate, and I hate to say this, going back to the whole narrative and character direction and character purpose, this man's just not that important. He isn't. He's kind of a random. He's kind of a random. He's a nobody. He's the strongest of his period. Great. The only people we know from his period that aren't rice farmers and Walmart employees are Ryu and him. That is it. And Ryu's cooked in 2015, 16. He's gone well before or well after Kashimo could get anything else. We can't do anything. What? Unless he fights Ryu during like the one. But then again, no. You need Yorozu to add the rule to transfer between colonies, and then Sukuna immediately escapes, does the little bathy-wathy, comes back, and immediately starts loading people. And Ryu's the only one. Ryu's the only one you could hypothetically. You would have to alter. Like, there's no reason to get those two to fight. You would have to do on, like, some mystical, magical versus battle type beat, where you get those two to fight and somehow Ryu loses. I mean, presumably Ryu would lose. Maybe. I don't know. Once again, I'll do my own video of Ryu versus Kashimo, because that's a fun battle to me. But, like, forget all that. It's just the fact that there's no incentive. Just based on how Kashimo's dealt with. Because once we cut back to this fight, the battle of Hikari versus Kashimo. Once this battle ends, it's very specifically Kashimo being like, okay, fine, I don't have to search anymore. You'll take me to Sukuna. So he's not going to fight anybody else. He's be bored. And plus he has the 200 points already, so he doesn't need to. So he's not going to find anybody else there. Unless you make someone actively hunt down Kashimo, but then you have to introduce a whole new character, then you somehow know Kashimo, and then you need to make a Kashimo for Kashimo, and I just don't think that works within the pacing of the narrative. I did not expect to come into this video with such a negative outcome. But, like, I think that's it. You can't do that. You can't give this man anything else because he's literally built to he's built to glaze. I hate to say that, but he's built to glaze. Like, this is bro's whole purpose. This is his canon event. He can't escape it. He cannot escape it. It's just a part of his timeline, bro. It's a part of his timeline for him to get bullied. Because you do damage. Once again, I'm going to make a whole video talking about it in depth. And it's why a lot of my what ifs are actually kind of short. For JJK in particular, I have one long-term one planned out, but I'm working on that. I'm trying to get that whole thing scripted and recorded and start at least halfway through edited. It's gonna be like, it's probably gonna be about 10 parts and stuff like that. But that's a whole thing for another time. It's very, very specific, very, very complicated, and has issues. But one of the biggest things about the JJK plot, which is why I love it, yet it's hard to write for what ifs or alternate timelines or anything like that. It is built so tightly. It is shonen optimized. There are so few moments of downtime because something always needs to be happening. So if you try to switch or pull out one event, you're either jeopardizing character writing, you're jeopardizing narrative purpose, you're shattering the narrative, shattering a character, you're doing something. So unless you give Kashimo like you need to give him like a whole Higuruma chapter. Like Higuruma got a whole chapter dedicated to his backstory and his motivation. Like, you would need to give Kashimo something like that in order for this to feel less painful when it finally happens. Because the thing with Kashimo is that without that, his win-loss ratio is atrocious. 0 dubs. 0 dubs. 1 inconclusive and 2 hefty. Well, 1 hefty juicy L and 1 just L. Hikari is the just L. Sukuna is the hefty juicy L. Clearly. And then that's it. That's it. It's once again, it goes back to the Gojo discussion. Gojo had dubs. He had hard dubs. Even if most of them, let's be real, other than Toji, who does Gojo actually get on camera? No, it's Toji and Hajime. Those are the only two. He beats other people. He beats Urume. He beats Jogo. But not only do they both survive and go on to cause more havoc when Gojo could have immediately executed them right then and there, same thing with Mahito and stuff like that. Like Choso too, like ironically enough. Those transfigured humans, but they're randoms. But at least Gojo has dubs. And the only loss on his record before Sukuna was against Toji, who had prepped for him. And he immediately pretty much negated that L on his record because he got the get back on Toji nigh on instantaneously. So I don't know. Gojo has that. The narrative has been built around that. So when he finally jobbed against Sukuna, the only issue people had with it was the writing towards the end of it. Not the fact that, Gojo was undermined or wasted or fodderized or anything like that. No, it's just the fact that he went out in a way that people don't like. It's not the fact that he seemed like a worthless jobber. I bet most people don't even think of Gojo as a jobber, even though that's, at least in my opinion, clearly his narrative purpose. But Kashimo, his whole role is laid so bare, he might as well be a foreteller. The master of masters himself might as well lay no name on the table and say, Kashimo, you're here to job. And there's nothing I can really do about it. There's nothing I can really do about it. You can't add more without breaking something. Because if you add more pre-Kashimo fight, you need to add another chapter. And to be fair, we spent a whole chapter on wasting time with that filthy, disgusting creature known as Panda. So maybe, in fact, why not? Why not just swap out? Maybe that's the only thing you could do. You would have to either add a chapter that goes over Kashimo's history, have it set up like another character and their power and equity, and like maybe relate them somehow to the modern day, so we as a reader can get a proper comprehension of how powerful Kashimo is, and shows them him beating that guy without his curse technique, or beating that whoever it is, that curse spirit or whatever, and then you just go with the plot as normal. Because you can't do it during the Akari fight, obviously. You can't do it during the Panda fight, obviously. You can't do it post-Akari fight, because he's not going to fight anymore, obviously. And then you can't do it during the 1 month time skip, because there's no reason he should be fighting anybody else. If anything, he should just be training for Sukuna. So yeah, Kashimo's narrative, despite him literally disappearing out of the plot for large chunks, huge sections at a time, it is still so tightly interwoven. It is so tight-knit that it is basically impossible to add something without subtracting from something else. And I hate to say it, but once again, just based on this guy's narrative weight, on his narrative heft, on his girth, if you will, unfort, he's just not worth it. He's genuinely just not, he's not worth subtracting from anybody else. He's not worth subtracting from Sukuna in his true form. He's just not. We need to give Sukuna all the glaze possible. He doesn't need it, but we're going to give Sukuna all the glaze possible. And what better glaze than Kashimo? We can't subtract Gojo's narrative either, which would do the same thing if you were to try and subtract from Sukuna's narrative by having Kashimo actually do damage to true form and not just a Omega, weakened, Giga fatigued Meguna. You can't give him the dub over Akari because then he executes Akari. You could have at least made him get rid of Panda, but that's just for me. Like, I get why Panda didn't get got. Because, you know, Akari wouldn't like that and would appear and do something about that. And also, once again, it's just Panda. Like, jobbing Panda is... Like, I could job Panda. I want to job Panda. Gege. Teleport me into the manga so I can job Panda. But, like, I just don't see it. There is no vision, and that hurts. Like, as a Kashimo fan, I was ready to come into this video and be like, here's how you plug it in, do this, do that. But the ideas I had just don't work. You would have to give him a chapter, set up an antagonist within that chapter, show how powerful that antagonist is relative to other characters within our modern narrative, so we know how powerful that antagonist is in that chapter, and explicitly give Kashimo the dub on screen. On what, like a 20-page chapter? It's like, you can't do that. I don't know. I just don't think you can do that. And that's very, very unfortunate. That's super duper rough, and that's awful. But I think that's just kind of how it be. But now the question is, what do you guys think? If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave the sad spark. Leave the sad spark in the comment section down below. I want to know your thoughts on this. Do you think you can give Kashimo more without compromising his narrative or his character role? I couldn't think of anything. If you guys think of anything, hey, if it's good enough, I will make another video talking about how you can do it and give you credit. I will do that because I generally look over something because I actually do really like Kashimo still. So if you can think up something for this sad spark right here, find some way for him to dodge his narrative fate or at least make his narrative fate less sad, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This happens to be that guy with the pencil writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Akid's Void. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix LND, and Igneal. And I'd like to give a chunky old thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another chunka thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, Idemokai, Yuki and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a hefty thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another giga gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.